Waiting room.
Okay. So being 5:30, I'll call the order of the Community Preservation Committee. The meeting into order, 5:30 PM. Then for the record, would you just take the roll call?
I sure will. Michael?
Yeah.
Dennis?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Myself? Tim?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes. Here. Our first item on the agenda was adoption of minutes from October 24th, but the minutes aren't ready for tonight, so we'll catch those on next meeting. And our next item is public comment. If there's anyone here for public comment. Or online, you see anybody in the,
No, I don't see anybody. It's just us tonight.
oh, okay. And that please, our next item is the fiscal 2026 budget discussion for Springtown meeting. For Springtown, we have no applications.
Yeah, so the application that had been submitted by Planning and Development, we sent it up to the coalition and they said that that is not eligible for CPC funding. So the town is going to take a different route with that project and submit an article to town meeting in the spring for funding, probably from free cash.
Could you tell me why it wasn't?
Because it wasn't, basically the reason was, it was something that the town should be paying for out of its own operating budget. The CPC is not, to be used for that type of expense. If it was a new purchase and we were recording it like as an open space, that recording is eligible based on that purchase. But we can't just take all of our parcels that we own that haven't been recorded at the registry and then ask the CPC to do the funding for it. So that was basically the reason why. So with that being withdrawn, we actually don't have any applications to consider for the Springtown meeting, but we'll discuss, maybe after we have a discussion with the Affordable Housing Trust, what we should recommend. I'm gonna make some recommendations to the committee for funding of projects that already exist of our available funds.
For debt reduction.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so the set aside will be used to reduce the debt that's already existing.
yeah.
If we vote that way.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can people speak up? I have a hard time hearing back here. Not just you, but any, it's just.
Okay, yeah, understood. So,
So do you want to get them out of the way?
yes, yeah, that brings us down to the affordable housing trust discussion. Did you want to join us up here or?
Well, I wasn't planning to make a presentation.
No,
But
but
I'll certainly come up and answer any questions that I can. If you want me to do a presentation at any time, but just let me know. So I'll come in. Is this okay down here?
yes, that's fine.
Okay, good.
Could you explain what is expected of us?
So we had invited the Affordable Housing Trust to come to just discuss potentially what CPC could work with them in the future on any projects. Just have a discussion. There's no expectation of you tonight or ever, really. I mean, it all depends on if they, in the future, submit an application, to CPC, then you would, review it at that time. But it was just to have an open discussion about the potential future cooperation between the two committees.
Sure, that'd be wonderful. Mr. Bradley, and I met, and had a discussion.
Could you just still say what,
Oh,
say who
sorry.
you are for the record?
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
You should have.
My name's Kathy Dunn, and I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Also present is Michelle Rowe, who works for the Community Development Office, and she is our administrative assistant. So the Affordable Housing Trust, in case anyone's interested in attending a meeting, is meets the third Wednesday morning at 8 AM. And our next meeting is next Wednesday, on the 20th. And it's at 8 AM in the Cranberry Room, and we also have a Zoom. So if you're interested, you know, will be posted by Michelle. And you can get the information, yeah. And I would invite you to attend. I think we should work together. I think it's very important that we do that, and I think that Mr. Bradley agrees. So, as you may know, the sole really responsibility of the Affordable Housing Trust is to try to build affordable units. And just to keep you up to date, we worked together with the CPC to build about 54 of them within the past couple of years. All of them built by Rick Vale, and he has a good model for that. We'd like to build more 2 to 3 bedroom apartments for families. There's an acute shortage of units for families. Most of what's been built are 1 bedroom with a few 2 bedroom included in the projects. And a few units that are accessible units. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2. So our sole source of income is in kind, in lieu of rather, donations. Well, I shouldn't call them donations, they're obligations from those that are building larger units. That's right now, we have very little money actually. We at this time don't have anyone filling out an application for our money, but that's because we really don't have much money. As you probably know, it's really hard to get contractors to get interested in building affordable housing. It's expensive, that's one reason. Plus, there's the NIMBY, not in my backyard, and we just experienced that. And that then townspeople don't have a clear idea of what affordable housing is. At some point, we really should try to do a presentation that might include the CPC and the Affordable Housing Trust. But we've done those in the past and no one comes.
Right.
So you put a lot of work into it, and unless we can guarantee an audience of not just, like, I've done them for the League of Women Voters. So round up everyone who's interested in affordable housing and already knows something about it. That's not the target audience we want for something like that, but it is something we could consider doing at some point.
Now, right now, besides any projects that are with the CPC that you mentioned, do you have any others ongoing?
Well, what I was what I was going to say is we have, given money to, Habitat for Humanity
Okay,
for Indian Ave, which is now completed. And we did a day of service there, which was really fun, for the whole trust participated. And right now, we've also given, some money to them for, I think it's 534 Wareham Road. And that's for, a woman and her daughter, and it's really going to be a really nice home for them. The one on Indian Ave is great. So Habitat for Humanity, is also looking at, one of the things we have right now are 3 pieces of property, which we got in tax title,
okay,
and, the best one is 195 Wareham Road. And with Habitat, a large group, well, 3 or 4 people from the Affordable Housing Trust, including Amy Belmore and Jim Middleton, and some board members met us down there and, to look at the property. It's 3 acres. And it's a nice piece of property, really nice piece of property, right near Red Brook.
Yeah.
Red Brook ends. And this lot is across the road. So if Habitat is interested, but I also think they're about to get a piece of property from the redevelopment authority on Strand Ave. Where they may be building after they finish the one, on 5, whatever it is, 530.
31 Wareham.
Yeah, on Wareham Road.
Okay.
And so because we have so little money, we have promised some money to the Red Brook project. Not much, but, just $100,000. But our revenue right now is about $350,000, which is practically nothing.
Annually,
Excuse me?
annually, the revenue stream.
No.
You mean
No,
balance?
we got it in chunks. What?
Okay, so Kathy, so the 350, is that a balance or?
Yeah, so it's a balance.
Okay, all right, you said revenue stream.
No, I didn't. You said that.
Is that after the payment for Red
Okay,
Brook?
you have a balance,
We have a balance right
roughly
now.
about 350.
Roughly.
Okay,
Yeah, sometimes it goes up to, 1,000, close to $1 million. Sometimes a little more than that. It all depends on, well, these are in lieu of, donations
Yeah.
or obligations.
Right.
So we were counting on a larger sum of money from the Claremont project before that was changed from 55 and over to whatever it's going to be now. So that was disappointing. So basically, we could, if the Habitat for Humanity isn't interested in this 195 or doesn't feel they can, move on it. If we could find a developer that would be interested, I think it would be something we could build a duplex or even more than that on this piece of property. It's wooded and it's needs, it needs everything, but
Right.
Red Brook is close by and they already have the utilities, so it's really a nice piece of property. So,
That's in a nutshell. Does anybody on CPC have any questions or comments for Kathy? Yes, yeah.
Comment.
Yeah.
They would be coming in anyway to apply the CPC funds, correct?
Probably, sometimes they'll get some from Housing Trust and some from
Sure.
CPC.
Sure. So. I haven't quite made up my mind yet, but partnering. Partnering. That's a guarantee. That a certain percentage would come out of CPC.
No, they would bring each individual project. They would make out an application. They have an application fairly similar to ours. The-
Yes,
the
but that
applicants-
happens anyway. They-
Yes,
They
and
would come to us anyway, so I don't understand the ask.
Well, I don't think that, is there?
There isn't an ask. There isn't an ask.
At this time.
What the Coalition for Community Preservation Act in Massachusetts allows the CPC, if they didn't wanna do applications with developers or other people to do housing, that cities and towns have every right to give either their 10% or another amount to the Affordable Housing Trust for them to do the
Oh, so it
project.
bypasses
So
us.
it's an option.
Yeah.
It's not something that you have to do. It's just an option that is eligible and it is legal. That's
Right.
all.
But
It's a legal way to contribute money and it counts towards our 10% that we're
Correct.
supposed to spend for affordable housing.
Yes.
And what we discussed last time is the concern about just giving that money
Mhm.
and possibly losing some of the oversight. And,
control.
well, just the oversight of it to make sure that it's used effectively.
Well, many, towns and, Mr. Bradley found this out, and he did some research, many towns do give their affordable housing trust, 10%, when they have it. Sometimes you're using it for projects that you've had applications for. But if you don't have applications, sometimes towns do give the Affordable Housing Trust. And we certainly would appreciate that and, would, use it wisely. I mean, we have a very responsible board and, Lee Hartman is our community representative. He's a voting member of our board and indispensable, really, because he knows so much about, what's going on in the town. So we certainly take his advice, wisely, and we don't, fritter away our money in any way. We don't even have any administrative assistance that's paid. Last year, we hired Judy Barrett, who's a housing consultant, to, create an application for us. Believe it or not, we never had an application. And so we paid her for that. But other than that, we really don't spend any money.
Yes, ma'am.
By no means do I diminish the role of what you do. It's very important. And Lee Hartman has my full support over these years. Wonderful. But I really do not want to relinquish automatically,
Yes, Joe.
even in theory.
Kathy, you had mentioned that you've done presentations in the past and you think that something should occur in the future where, there's a forum that educates the public as to what affordable housing is.
Yeah,
It's my opinion that, especially among politicians, they'll be running for office. And it's just become a cliche or a soundbite, the term affordable housing.
absolutely.
So in a presentation like you're referring to, not only is it, nobody's ever taken a step back and said, what are the variables that actually make housing affordable?
Mhm.
Okay, because you've been doing this, we've been doing this for decades. And when I say we, the Commonwealth, all the communities, talking about creating affordable housing. But most of our housing is unaffordable. And there's a multitude of variables that go into that are never discussed. And that's something
Yeah.
that I believe that should be incorporated into some sort of public forum that you would suggest.
Well, I was at a meeting the other day, this week, Tuesday. And someone who's town meeting member and, you know, very active in town government. Said to me, so what is the profile of someone who lives in these affordable houses? And I said, well, let's start with, they have to make about $80,000. Whether that's one income or two. They are teachers, they're young professionals. They're fire and police, they're people who are working. There's no way they couldn't be working and earning money. And the housing that is built in our town is wonderful, it's beautiful. If there's anyone who wants, I'm sure maybe I've seen all of the things that have been built for the Affordable Housing Trust. I've been in them and had tours of the buildings. They're a place where anyone would wanna live. A lot of them are occupied by older women. Single women, couples, people who have had to sell their homes and can't afford, or maybe they never had their own homes.
Mhm.
But it's senior housing, for some people.
Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
a misconception.
Yeah.
And I also agree with you as far as misconceptions are concerned, but we already are, this group is the CPC, past and present and future, already has the ability to approve projects based on the categories that are available to us. And to me, to just say, all right, we're gonna automatically just go ahead and put 10% into one particular category and not have any oversight, which was mentioned previously, to me, doesn't make any sense. We already have the ability, if we want to put 70% into one particular category if the funding is in place and it's all approved. So we already have that ability to also partner not only with the Affordable Housing Trust, but we're also partnering with Historic District Commission, we're partnering with open space committees and other groups that are involved with utilizing community preservation funds. So I think it's important that it stays within the committee and then maybe at one time 75 or 80% goes toward the affordable housing based on the application that comes before the committee. That's my personal opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Len, can I ask you a question? So if we were to give them that money, does that have to go through as an article for town meeting, or do it would still have to go through as an article?
And I didn't come here to ask for that.
Oh, no, I understand.
Frankly.
We have talked about, and we hired our own consultant to help us do affordable housing. And I think in the future, affordable housing applications are going to be more specific about what we require instead of just letting them decide. We're gonna decide. And we're gonna set some thresholds for what they're gonna have to do to be able to get our financial support. Because that's what happened to that. The South Street thing, while it failed due to a vote at planning, that probably wasn't the intent of the vote, but it happened. That article, I didn't support it because I didn't think that it financially made sense for the town. Mr. Veo has built lots of great properties and you look around and I think he's a great guy and he's a sincere guy and he has good intentions. But the reality of it is John just said, and I said when I applied for this committee, that it's a marketing tool, affordable housing in my mind, I even take it out of go, it's a marketing tool.
Yeah.
I grew up in the fifties and the sixties, the only people today, and even back then, when things weren't as expensive, but people didn't make. The only people that can really build what we would deem as affordable housing is the government. And we know the government doesn't want to be in that business, and we understand why. But whatever we can do to help people have a house that they can afford, a place they can afford to live, at the same time, build up some equity would be nice, either through equity or, you know, to be able to then buy a piece of property and then go through the equity gain. But as Karen said, I'm reluctant to just allocate, because that's what we had heard, and maybe we're being told a different scenario here, to allocate that portion of our funding to do housing, and then basically by doing that, lose some level of oversight that we would have with this, you know. Maybe we could have an agreement, maybe we could have something in writing, but I would be reluctant to just, you know, I think the better way is to work with you, and if you bring a project to the CPC that you would like to help us fund, we would do it just like you're just a developer, think of you as a developer. You're coming to us with a project, and we would help you work out the details and give you as much funding as we possibly could afford.
Well, if that's your decision, that's fine, but, we aren't a developer and we never will be. And both of us are in a position where the only way housing will be built, in this town is when developers
Understand?
present a project that we would help fund. Right now, as I explained to you, we don't have enough money to fund. We have an application that specifies, and you might want to see it, it's up on our website, that specifies exactly what we require. It's our focus, I think, like yours, it should be on 60% AMI and some 40% AMI. That's the attractive part of the Red Brook project. And that will be fairer for people, who can't afford 80%.
Yes.
I agree with that, the 60-40, the 60-30, whatever it is, but it's the developer that comes in and says, I can't afford that.
I know.
And that's where the catch is, and John is absolutely right. Until that old ball of wax is addressed, you know, it's just a vicious circle, and it is a catchphrase. Not saying that about you or what you do.
Oh, no.
But well, you've heard what I had to say, I just added that.
No, I think we all agree that 80% AMI is not affordable in this area. 60 starts to be getting that way, and 40 obviously
Sure.
is,
Red Brook was the best,
yeah.
but I think few and far between.
And some of the people that have called and asked about, contacted me as a chair to say, I'd like to bring something in. And I said, we probably aren't going to be interested in it unless it's at least 60% AMI or better. Well, because the 80 doesn't work. And two of them I haven't heard back from since.
And I don't blame the developer either, he's
Right.
gotta make money. But it's a catch, it's a boomerang, it
Yes.
just doesn't work out.
Well, I also find it frustrating that, the state has, you know, all this money that they talk about,
Mhm.
write about. But unless you have a shovel-ready project that, is much bigger than anything we can offer, really. You can't ask for any help. I have talked to people at Mass Housing about this lot. And
Yeah.
they're like, what are you putting, what would you be putting on it, you know, 1 or 2 bedroom or a duplex or something like that? Oh, no. They are at the service of large corporations that are building affordable housing. And that's very frustrating,
Yeah,
for us,
I agree.
either of us. So, basically, I'm just here to say, we're all in this together. We have a housing production plan. We have a master plan that's gonna talk about that next, on the 20th of, November, down at, South Middle School. And, if anybody comes up with a brainstorm for housing, that would be wonderful. But in the meantime, people talk about affordable housing, and yet we had, the American Rescue Plan funds. And well, guess how much went to the Affordable Housing Trust? I think you can guess, 0. We got nothing from those funds or any of the other funds that came to the state or county. I mean, to the county, well, the town.
Now keep
And
voting.
so if you
keep
really
voting.
are interested in affordable housing, show me the money.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
So,
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
very well.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in.
Other future town, town project discussion.
I think what we can do now is we can just go over, so if you pass this handout out to everyone. This is really sort of the operating budget. That is the 4% of the administrative funds that I'd like the committee to review. And if you feel comfortable tonight, you can vote on it, but if you want to wait and, you know, take a look at it and we can vote it at the next meeting. But basically, the administrative fund pays for the expenses associated with administering the CPC funds. And we've hired a CPC coordinator who I would recommend half of their salary be allocated to CPC. And half of it is allocated to the general fund because this position supports not only the Community Preservation Committee, but they support the Committee of Precinct Chairs and their subcommittees. This past fiscal year, the committee last year had voted to use approximately 25% of the CPC funds towards this position. I think it requires, this position is spending more of their time with CPC than COPC, and I just feel like it requires 50% allocation. There's a budget for overtime for the meetings, there's a budget for the annual dues for the CPA coalition to belong to that. The coalition wants us to set aside some money to for a housing consultant, when we do have applications for housing to assist the committee on reviewing those applications and what's required. So, and then we would budget so much for appraisals, and then there would be other things that we could use the fund for that come up during the year. But the 4% allocation based on the annual revenues in the budget would be approximately $156,855. So there's plenty of funding, you know, to do the things I think that I'm recommending here. But if you have any questions or.
So I do. So the total budget of 4%, 156. Is that based on what we think we're gonna receive?
Yes, based on the annual revenues, so, the spreadsheet that I showed you last time, so. Len, if you, there's tabs at the bottom of this
Oh, okay.
spreadsheet. If we actually look at the one that says, budget, let me see.
And they think the budget is gonna go up. Did you read the newspaper, the release from the coalition?
The state
Budget
Yeah.
projection
They
update
don't know how by how
6/24,
much, but
if you actually open that one up, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna just make it a little bit bigger.
So what you see here is for fiscal 26, the annual revenues is estimated to be approximately 3.9 million. So 4% of that
Gotta get a lot bigger.
is 156.
160,000, yeah.
About, yeah. So
Oh, yeah, I'm just making it bigger. And everybody, that's still too small.
So annually, on an annual basis, you guys have always recommended to town meeting to allocate 4% to your administrative budget.
Right.
And so the 4% represents 156. And we're budgeting for, at least right now, the CPC coordinator, the overtime for the meetings, the dues, any housing consultant and any appraisals. I mean, and there's other things that come up, but
So the other is basically contingency.
it's contingency, yes. yes,
And
but
you
anything
base
else.
this also if you went to last year's costs. Fiscal year.
Sure, and we never
costs.
spend
Does it
the whole
basically
budget.
match or go up a percentage, obviously?
The amount goes up, the
The
4%
156.
has never changed.
I know that.
It's always been 4%.
So has it gone up for,
It only goes up because the annual revenues go up.
I understand. I'm talking about
Okay.
the costs that match.
Oh,
What we
they
put in the
included-
budgets.
So if
I'm just
we,
saying, you're using an average of 156, I understand, and you went through the whole process.
we never.
But the
spend
year
the
prior,
4%.
how much did we spend if you added all of these items up that you would actually have in the
But you
budget?
say what the actual was.
Yeah,
Well,
the year before.
well, we didn't have, I mean, it's a little bit different because we didn't have the admin. We didn't have the housing consultant.
So we don't have the history to say what it is.
Well, you
So-
have history, but it doesn't compare,
Yeah.
so it's.
Moved.
But still cost.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what
That
were our
meet those
costs last year,
categories.
independent of what we spent it on? Right?
I understand, but the
But-
categories were still there, except for administratively, right?
But you might. Well, one of the things, Tim, that occurred, I think, a year or two ago was demolition on the
Oh, yeah.
Russ.
That
The
building,
illegal house and the Seaver property out in the woods, okay, so there was an $18,000 demolition that came out of the admin line.
Okay,
item.
so if I looked at,
Now she wants, if we do that again, she wants that included. And I
That's the
agree,
contingency,
in-
yes.
In the,
yeah,
in the entire nut.
in the project, so
Yeah.
what we're telling people now is when you submit a project, every cost associated with that project needs to be submitted with that
Equal.
project, so if it means tearing down a building, it's included in the project, town meeting votes on it.
Right,
Or signage, lots of times we'd have open
Right.
space and later on there'd be $6,000 or $7,000 for
or
signage.
a fence,
Right, now it has to be in the project, so it's not coming out of that.
yeah,
Right. I mean, if we looked at what we spent last year, we spent approximately $95,000 out of the
Gotcha.
admin budget. The year before that, we spent 73,000. The year before that, we spent 55,000. The
right.
year before that, we spent 130. The year before that was 115.
Yeah.
So it's,
So you do the analytics, basically. Yeah, but you didn't have the
and, yeah.
admin fees.
no, you didn't have, you didn't have the CPC coordinator, but we're
Correct.
also in the future not gonna have these large expenditures of, tearing down a building or, signage or some of these other.
So 156 covers the last 7 years' history. And if there's extra money left over from the 156, you just bring it forward to the next step.
Yeah, everything just
Budget
closes
cycle.
out to the CPC fund, so it all stays in the fund, and if you don't spend it, it stays in the CPC fund.
Right,
Yeah.
So this makes me happy looking at the 156 and hearing the history for the last couple of years.
Makes it feel good. Karen, you got-
my question is the coordinator between the COPC and us.
Mhm.
You said you see them working more for us than the COPC.
Yeah.
Shouldn't she get 60?
Well, I think it should probably be 75-25, but I
Oh,
didn't
good.
know if you guys were willing to go that route.
It'll not
So
push the envelope.
what I'm asking is for at least 50-50. Cause it was hard, to even get, to initially to approve the position.
So you've basically been our coordinator for the last,
Yeah,
Well, she starts Monday. so
oh, she
we-
starts
yes.
Monday.
Oh, she does,
So,
okay,
yeah,
good.
oh, yeah, no, she's arriving.
You're so excited, aren't you?
She's very excited, I'm very excited.
So
You'll actually have to go home, you have to go home tonight, you won't have to
Yeah,
be here.
yes, yeah. Well, if we reschedule it.
And this particular, hire has experience with CPC.
thank
Oh,
God.
wow.
Yes,
Now, who pays out of COPC?
so it comes out of the general fund budget, it comes out of
General
finance,
fund.
Yeah.
Hmm.
comes out of finance.
I think leave it at 50-50
Yeah.
for this year, we see what the experience is,
Yeah.
I mean, again, we're trying to make decisions based on just
I felt
assumptions.
generous.
The COPC is gonna get ready to get really busy here, getting
Well,
ready
this
for town
position
meeting.
is required to be more supportive to CPC.
Yeah,
COPC, the position is not giving opinions, it's not, COPC, they're just taking minutes, they're doing
Paperwork.
agendas, they're doing, inviting people to
Right,
meetings.
right, right.
They're
You
not
don't-
providing support to your committee with
Yeah.
housing,
Research.
you know,
Need
doing
that much
research,
support?
doing all these things, so it's, it's a lot more.
Yeah, we'll see,
So I think 50-50 is
They
probably a
want-
good representation
starting point.
for next year, so this would be for fiscal 26's
all right.
budget. So do we have a moment?
Hmm?
Can I, before you do that,
I know.
where is the interest cost accounted for? Is it considered an admin cost? or-
No, it's separate,
Okay.
so it's, the interest cost is a separate item that gets voted at town meeting, and then depending on what type of project it is, it's considered that particular expenditure.
Okay.
Either open space or housing. Okay,
Are there any other questions on this proposal? Do I have a motion?
Motion,
By Karen, second? Excuse me.
So this is a motion to approve the
Proposed,
admin budget.
yeah.
well,
The
yes,
proposed admin budget at the 4%, which is approximately 156, I have to refine the numbers. We're still working on 2025's numbers, which tax classification is gonna be held the second week of December, so these numbers, they may adjust, up or down very little, but it's about this much, and then primarily the 50% allocation for the CPC coordinator.
okay, so we have a motion by Karen and it's seconded by Mike. Glenn?
Michael, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Dennis,
Yes.
John,
Yes,
myself, yes, Tim,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Karen,
yeah,
and Ed,
Yes. Unanimous.
unanimous.
Okay. The next thing that I would suggest is to go back to what the other spreadsheet, Len, that you opened up on, which
The
is
balances,
not the balances, it's next, the right to the
That
back,
one?
yeah, that one, yeah. So what we talked about at our last meeting was we have a few projects that we have authorized to borrow. And those projects are getting either started, well, one is finished, Stevens Field, which is, we've borrowed $1.8 million for that one. David Gould has started the dredging of Jenny Pond and part of the Town Brook Park project. And then potentially, we are working with the Coalition for the Homeless on starting that project. Initially, they thought that they were gonna start in November. They're still waiting on their building permit. There's been some delays, so that project we may not have a cash requirement for that project in this fiscal year, but we're still working on that. Potentially, there might be a small amount that we would have to start on that project. So in saying that, because Stevens Field is all done, that I would recommend that we pay down Stevens Field 100%. The 1,828,959. And how we would fund that would be the 10% that's used for open space recreation, which is the 392,136. Plus the remainder would come from the estimated annual revenues. So the remainder would be more than that 50% that's listed there. So if we were to take the 1,828,000 project.
It's, oh, it doesn't shine on the TV. That's just so weird.
Yeah,
Oh, so much of that.
Get your laser, huh? Laser,
Yeah,
show on the wall?
no, I'm trying to. pull
I
it up.
know, but we'll.
Yeah, it does, look at it, you can see it, I know why it's not doing it, I can
Oh.
tell you technically why it's not doing it.
Use your pointer on your left.
Yeah, Lynn, so. I'm looking at authorization 13.9. But really, it's really 14 and a little bit more because we don't have Black Cat up there yet.
Black Cat is not even in the, Black Cat, we don't have to borrow.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 115 we're paying cash.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So the only one that I added since the last time I was here was Full Sail at 875.
Correct, yeah.
So you suggesting we're gonna have to borrow 1.1 million?
So what? Currently, right now, we have an outstanding temporary note for Stevens Field of 1,828,959.
Mhm.
That is still considered a cash requirement for fiscal 25 because I either have to roll it over or I have to start paying it down, but I don't have any money available this year to pay it down. So I'm recommending that we use fiscal 26 annual revenues to pay that down. The other projects that we are going to have cash requirements, so we've started projects and we are paying bills for Jenny Pond and Town Brook. So those, I'll have to borrow something before the end of the fiscal year, and I'm estimating that it's going to be 2.6 million for those two projects.
Right.
So we would incur debt service on those two. We'd also incur debt service on the 1.8, because I have to roll it over, but I'm gonna pay, if you vote to pay it off next year, we roll it over to a certain date, pay it off, and then
In
it's done.
26,
Yes. Full Sail, I know that, I think they're working on a closing for Full Sail before June 30th of this fiscal year, so that's potentially another one that we'll have to borrow for. But I think what I'm recommending is that we start, paying this down. And Stevens Field, because we've already incurred the borrowing, we'll, pay it off as soon as we can.
And the interest stops.
Exactly on that.
Right,
project, that's
right, and the interest would stop on that. The coalition, what may end up happening with that and what my recommendation would be is, so pay off. Stevens Field. The second recommendation would be, is the 10% amount that's for housing, the 392,136. That we use that 10% towards a pay down of the Coalition for the Homeless project.
Which would
Because
be
it's
just shy of 400 grand.
Right. And it's basically, based on their construction schedule, it's like 1 month of, the amount that we owe them on that project. And we think that those payments, initially they were supposed to start in April, but it looks like they might not start until like June or July. So we may be able to push that out a little bit, but at least at a minimum, I would recommend that we use that 392, the 10% of the housing towards the coalition project.
So those two combined add up to a little bit over 2.2 million. if those two separate articles were approved, if we were to approve them, that would bring the committee's overall exposure down to about 11.7.
Right,
Okay,
right.
From,
That's better.
from 13.9.
that's right.
I'll make,
So we're heading in the right direction, and I'm leaving in about 5 minutes, so if
Yeah.
you wanna
Well-
vote with me in it.
Where is Pilgrim Hall Museum on?
It's all paid off. It's already been paid off,
The whole
the whole
3.2,
We're not borrowing any money for that. We've already done that one.
even though it's not according to the agreement. the
We
last-
haven't paid
We
them,
haven't given it to them, but it's all about the
but we have paid ourselves.
So you're saying the balance for CPA is already taken into consideration, and that money has already been spent, it's like a checkbook, it's not there.
Well, what we've done is at town meeting, instead of authorization to borrow, we've gone back to town meeting and we've reduced that to 0. So we don't have to borrow anything for Pilgrim Hall. So we have the money available to give them.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yes.
So, to understand, so come July 1st of 2025. Would you get in the first payment of taxes to fund the CPA? And then there's another one 3 months later, another one 3 months later. So you wanna pay down, the pay down of Stevens is gonna have to wait till we've collected.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't work that way, okay.
No.
You don't have to explain to me how, just the
Yeah.
fact that it doesn't
It
work that
doesn't
way,
work that
I'm not
way,
gonna, you don't have to prove to me that you know what you're doing, I trust you. I just trying to understand it.
Sure. It's based on annual revenues and it's a budget that you vote.
Okay,
And as long as, if there's cash flow needed, you can always borrow, we can borrow from ourselves.
okay, that's what I figured it was.
So we'll have the funding in place to pay.
You
Yeah,
take it from the
There
big
we
check,
go.
yeah.
you take it from the big checkbook and put it in the little checkbook.
So you want a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Will we motion?
I make a motion that we sponsor an article for Springtown meeting, April of 2025. To pay off the entire remaining debt on the Stevens Field project. For the amount of $1,828,959.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Oh, you take it.
Okay, second. Here you go, Dennis, second.
Nobody was doing anything.
We'll get what you just said.
You know.
Okay, you ready again? Karen,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes,
myself, yes, John,
Yes,
Dennis,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and Ed.
Yes. Now, do you need a vote to take the 10%?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So, the recommendation would be, at least right now, leading into the annual town meeting for articles, I would recommend that whatever the 10% is for housing, that we direct that 10% towards the Plymouth Coalition for the Homeless Project.
motion
So
so
don't
made,
vote a number, just vote
motion
it.
so made,
Second.
10%.
Second by Karen, go ahead,
Yeah, that you fast.
He's writing.
I'm right, I don't write that fast enough. Michael,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
John,
yes,
myself, yes, Tim,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and Ed.
yes, another unanimous.
Who seconded that one?
Karen.
Karen did. I've got to, I can send you this if you want.
Okay.
I don't-
You have another recommendation.
Do I?
I don't
Do
know.
I?
Do you?
excuse me, Chair, I have to.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, yes.
Oh, you're gonna miss the photos of the roof at the Pilgrim.
I think right now.
Okay.
That would be, so basically what happens is, I would recommend those two pay downs, Stevens Field and the Coalition for the Homeless. And then we'll have our article for the annual budget. We have to have an article, so the next recommendation for a vote, and we don't necessarily have to know the number, but whatever the calculated, interest is, the debt service budget, so approximately right now, it's looking like about 330,000, but I think it's going to end up being less than that because of the coalition project is not starting when we thought it was going to start. So what I would do is maybe vote, make a motion to vote a debt service budget that is no greater than $330,000.
So, oh, second,
Okay. By Mike and seconded by
we're
Kevin.
just moving along.
All set, Mike.
All right, Michael,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
John,
Yes,
myself, yes. Paul,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes,
and Ed.
Yes. Nothing yet.
No greater than the 300, what did we say?
330,000.
330K.
and Lynn, you referenced another article. That would allow the committee legally to spend money between July first and Halloween. Avoiding that mistake that was made a year or so ago.
Oh, yeah,
right?
no, that's the budget.
Good.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's the
Yeah,
budget. article.
this is our budget article, yeah. And then, so then what happens is. With the annual revenues, the 3.9 million of the annual revenues, we've recommended right now to use. So much towards this budget, the operating budget of 156, we're recommending the 392 towards the housing. We're recommending 1.8 million of the annual revenues to pay off Stevens Field, plus the other 10% towards Stevens Field. I mean, it'll all wash out. Whatever's remaining, you have to do, the only other set aside that we have to do, and we'll do that within the budget article, is the 10% for the historic.
Mhm.
So we have no historic projects. So the article would be to do the 10% set aside in the historic reserve, and it just sits there until you get a project that's a historic project, and you can use that as a funding source in the future.
good.
And then the rest of the remaining annual revenues that we're not recommending to use right now. Well, in our budget article, we put it into what's called a budgeted reserve. So say that amount is like 750,000, I'm throwing it out there. It goes into a budgeted reserve, so it sits there, and then at the fall town meeting, if you have a project that's submitted. By the deadline in May. And you wanna consider that project, then you can use the budgeted reserve for a project. Or we can vote in the fall to pay down more debt, if you don't have any projects.
Sure.
And we could use that budgeted reserve for it.
So by saying committing that 10% into a kind of a historic holding account, it meets our requirement to spend 10%.
Yes, yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
yeah, and the other two we'll use to pay down debt, the.
Open space recreation.
Yeah, and the housing
And
one,
affordable.
yeah,
And everything
Good.
remaining will just go into. that
everything,
budget.
remember, go into budgeted reserve,
Sounds
And we'll
good.
decide.
okay?
We should, in the budget,
Doesn't take
we
long.
should have 1.2 to 1.4 in that heading into October.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure of the number,
like
but I
big
will,
crap.
I'll figure out what the numbers
Yeah.
are, and I'll let you guys know.
There's still something there to maneuver if something
yes.
arises. If not, we can pay more debt down.
Yes, yes. So I think we've done everything for the annual town meeting deadline for the articles that will be submitted. We can put together the article language, I can provide some backup
Okay.
for the select board's office. So you may not have to meet in December. Cause you've basically done
All my work.
what you need to do.
When does the door close? The town?
December 18th,
December 18th.
yeah. So we wanted to get it done,
Wait,
the next meeting would have been December 12th, but we really don't have to.
good.
Cause there won't be anything coming up.
Shucks.
in
Nothing to
between.
do. What am I gonna do?
Yeah, we'll see you all next year.
Bring your tree.
Yeah,
It'll think when it pops up, pull the switch at the bottom and it jumps at you.
For the next week, so I know that, the project that might be coming by the May deadline for the fall town meeting is that training green
Yes.
project that,
I'm looking forward to that.
that we discussed at the
Yeah.
last meeting.
Like they came.
Yeah, because that,
At 700,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
which is
getting,
not surprising. It's a lot of work they want to do, yeah. I think it's a,
But, correct me if I'm wrong, that qualifies as historical.
I believe so,
There
yes.
you go, Mike.
Yeah, we've already reviewed the project.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Okay,
So I think that's it for
Okay.
that.
Do you have any
And then
invoices?
next, I do have invoices,
Okay.
so. We have 2 invoices from the housing consultant from the meeting that she attended and the work that she did on the reviewing the application for the South Street project. So there's 2 invoices that add up to $2,599. So I would request a motion to approve.
motion,
Motion by Karen, second,
Second.
second by Dennis. You go then?
okay. Mike, this is approved invoices for 2K for consultant,
2,599.
2,599. Okay. Michael,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
John,
Yes,
myself, yes. Emma's not here. Paul,
Yes.
Betty's not here. Karen
yes.
and Ed.
Yes.
Okay, and then, oh, if you could sign them, you just, you remember the stamp.
Oh, yeah, the stamp.
And then this other one, actually, I signed it, but you can sign right next to. The next invoices are actually for Wayfair, so we ordered to get the CPC office prepared for the coordinator, because we are actually going to. House her in that office, we ordered a desk, a bookcase and a chair.
So she's
For-
not gonna be sitting in procurement anymore.
No, not in procurement, so she'll actually be in the CPC office, which is next to the town clerk's office, it's in this building. We're very excited about it, the office looks great, the desk was set up this week. So those 2 invoices add up to $2,058.16.
So moved.
Moved by Karen, second?
discussion,
Oh,
Oh,
yes, Dennis.
sorry.
after this meeting, Lynn, is it possible that we can see the office?
Yeah, I gotta go upstairs and get the key.
I don't wanna
In
put
my
you out if that's a
office.
pain in the butt, but,
You can go see it on Monday.
Is there a window on the door?
Yeah.
There is,
look
but
at
you
it.
can't see in there, it's dark, yeah, it's black,
Oh, it's dark.
yeah,
Where did you,
cause
I'm sorry, where did she come from? What town?
Where's the
Snowwell.
town hall?
Norwell.
yeah,
What's your name?
Kristen Ford.
She's got. Years there, too.
So Karen made a motion and who seconded that one?
I don't know. I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay, Len, second.
I'm doing this if you, okay. You ready again?
Yep.
Karen,
Yeah,
Paul, yes. Myself, yes. John,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Michael.
Yeah.
And Ed.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, and that was it for
This is only,
finance department.
only 4 of those little red boxes to sign, these ones, 30 or 40 of them. There's no sense we put any articles of budget, we already covered that. Any housekeeping? From anyone? Yes, John.
Oak Street?
Yes.
Oh, I had it on my list. I said, do I wanna ask? Do I wanna
You're in my
ask?
mind, Dennis, I didn't say a word.
We have heat, we have water,
You have tenants?
we
yay.
have tenants.
Yes,
3?
we have definitely 2.
Yeah.
Handicap unit is definitely being filled in one of the other units. One, we had another person back out. But we're trying to get it filled before the end of December,
December, okay.
even if it's partial. So we have people moving in December 1st,
Yes.
and we're trying to get somebody to move in sometime during the month of December to fill off the unit.
And we're still waiting for our occupancy permit, that has.
Yes, that's correct.
So that's the next big hurdle, and then
And you're gonna do a little kind of, attention grabbing thing over this.
Yeah, we'll definitely have,
Okay,
ribbon cutting.
Yeah, Russ, you gotta do
Like
something.
Casey, don't
Yeah.
just be.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll definitely do ribbon cutting for the open
there you go.
before December 1st or maybe December 1st.
Please let everybody know so
Yeah.
the proper invites can be sent out.
We'll do that.
Any other housekeeping? Rule. Our next scheduled meeting would be Thursday, December 12th, as soon as we've concluded our business, unless there's any objection, we will not be meeting Thursday, Thursday, December 12th. And is there any public comment from anyone before we adjourn?
Well, I'd like to say something.
Yes,
I want to thank this committee. It's been smooth. It's been really run well. I've enjoyed it. For the first time being on CPC, and I'm coming to the end of my tenure. But I'm glad I got to see it. And good going. And happy Thanksgiving.
I have one thing I wanted to ask, the full sale, so that's. A P&S is done, not signed, basically.
ENS is signed.
I
Oh,
thought it was
that's
signed,
There
signed.
is a P and S.
It just hasn't been passed on,
Yes.
but the 200 grand of that should knock the place down, what I understand.
And do the,
220 years to get rid of the building and to start working on the entrance shit.
like, clean up the siding and.
And new construction, whatever that vision is, it's supposed to encompass the 220 is. The 21E to see what the challenges are with respect to mitigating asbestos to lead paint, then the demolition, and then prepping it in whatever that finished version is. Whether it's
My
just,
question is just spending $250,000 right now, and we owe so much, why not just purchase the land? And pay down, throw that 250 towards our debt right now, and when we can afford it, I think we can do that. Well, it's been sitting there for
I'm just
20
asking, I'm asking the question. I mean, are we obligated to spend that extra, the $200,000
I think
anytime?
there's an agreement.
So. Yeah, so I'm not sure when I don't know when the closing is scheduled.
Right.
They won't be able to do anything on. The using of the 220, prior to that. It would probably,
But we've already allotted it, so once it,
right,
Close
we've
as well.
authorized it, and maybe what we do is in the fall. We do the 220 towards that, if the project has actually like gotten off the ground and they've incurred those costs. It is,
just a question.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice purchase, but it just.
Yeah.
Why start going ahead with a building now that's been sitting there for 20 years when we can't really afford it? That's to pay down.
Mhm.
Pay down some money we're paying interest on.
yeah, no, we could certainly. Wait on the 220. I know they wanna close on the property sometime, I would think sometime in this,
I was told.
after the first of the year.
Yeah.
That's my guess,
That's,
but.
that's
Maybe
what I
if
was
the
told.
fire department uses it as a training. burn.
Other people have tried it a couple times.
Yeah, didn't work out.
No,
Maybe there was somewhere they did that, they ended up burning down a neighborhood or something like that, out west somewhere they did that. A lot of times.
Yes.
any other new business, old business, or questions or concerns?
Just.
Yes, oh, yeah.
Just want to thank you for allowing us to come tonight and tell you about what's going on with the Affordable Housing Trust. The only way we're going to solve problems with affordable housing is if we work together for sure.
absolutely.
And,
Thank you.
and so, anyway,
Could you electronically send us the application that you used?
It's on the website.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we forget.
yeah, it is.
I'll send it, I mean, just to make it easy, I have it, I already downloaded it, I'll send it out to you.
All right, good.
Yeah, so maybe if, I mean, certainly Michelle could send it to everyone on the committee, but if you have it, maybe
Yeah.
it's easier for you to do
Sure.
it.
Okay.
So.
Yes, Karen.
Goodbye.
If there are no objections, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So,
Thank you.
Something in